Hello, welcome back to BlenderSushi Live Noding. In this episode, I'm sharing with you my experimental setup that I made using Sverchok Add-On and also Blender Cycles materials. Um, this is the kind of effects that I'm gonna be showing to you. It's what is this? This is an image originally from the Lenna image. Wait, let me show you the original. You probably know who Lenna is. This is 512 by 512 pixels image of Lenna being cropped. And this is actually one of the model that's becoming really famous in the computer graphics. I don't know who started it, but anyway, you can read the history about Lenna. She's one of the Playboy models. So anyhow, this is the result we get. Okay, this is like it looks kind of like a filter, but this is something that you can control using Sverchok and also combined together with Blender Cycles. The effects looks like something that you made inside Blender Compositor, right? With some blurring and some fancy stuff. But this actually really simple to create. But I'm using few fancy nodes from the Pile and Tile creator. This is there's fast noise and there's round vector. If I jump inside, this is actually what it is. It's a group node, max, multiply, subtract, round vector. There's a math in it, some kind of algorithm that's kind of doing the breaking, kind of like doing the mosaic. If I get rid of all the effects, this is the result actually. It's kind of doing the quantization, the reduction of color. It's doing around the effects for the pixel, so we get this kind of pixelated effects. But of course we have this offset, and with offset we can kind of plugging in whatever data from Sverchok, and then also things like the noise. That's this fast noise is also something that comes with the plugin, with the add-on. I found that really interesting. You definitely can easily miss that. So I'll mention again the add-ons. Okay, Blender just decided to restart itself, so that's okay. Gonna restart real quick. The add-on is called Pile and Tiles add-on, and by installing that add-on, you get this ability to generate like a 3D kind of like a repeating tileable 3D render. If you have that installed, you get this. This is what is it called? Seamless Pile and Tile. I think in the add-on it's called Piles and Tiles. I'll do a mention again. It's by Jesse Sutherland, Glow. Just find this add-on version 0.1. So it's a work in progress. But anyway, by installing that plugin, you will, if you go to compositing under Cycles material, switch to Cycle Render, you will find there's extra nodes that comes with it. So I'll have a plane at the moment, and I'm gonna load the Lenna image. I think I have it on the desktop. Lenna 512, this guy. Okay, this is 512 by 512. Very pretty model. We're gonna use Blender Cycles material, but we're gonna treat it just like Blender Compositing. So sometimes there's an overlap between compositing and cycles. Compositing being like a kind of like a 2D way to edit image and do whatever, but with cycles you can do more, and actually you have like a 3D kind of coordinates. Anyway, I'm gonna load the image, and we don't need to see this image all the time, so plug this in and let's do a save first. Sverchok Lenna Distortion field, save, and let's look at the result. By default, because we don't have any UV or anything, so we need to provide some vector. You have actually a few nodes that deals with that. There's a mapping, there's also what else, geometry, and also texture coordinate. I think texture coordinate and mapping is two common way to generate like a UV for your image. I think generated should be good. If you have the UV, you can use the UV as well. Just plug that in and we should have a Lenna image. I don't want to deal with the diffuse for now. I'll just use emission, so it's like fully bright and we don't need to worry about shading. Okay, this is our image at the moment. Nothing too fancy, but you will see because of the add-on, you actually have this seamless tools node groups. If I click on that thing, we're gonna get some new nodes, extra nodes, fast noise, round vector, and seamless area. I don't know these two. I still need to study it, but you look at the documentation anyway. Approximate object location resolution 512. Go back to the node. Let's try fast noise for now. With this fast noise, if I'm not wrong, you can simply plug this into the image texture and you get a noise. But we need to have coordinate as well. So let's try. So instead of Lenna image, we can plug this into that guy and we have noise. And let me try to also anyway, that's perhaps we can use like a noise texture. Noise texture actually have this distortion stuff, so we can test it. So this is the normal noise, and if we use the distortion, plug this into the distortion, we get some kind of like a blurring effects. But that's not what we want. Perhaps we can simply use this round vector. Round vector X is the one that I like because we have control over the offset and the scale. So simply by plugging the mapping into this guy and then this into that guy, we can have the mosaic effect. We can zero out the offset, and this is really the mosaic effects. It's reducing and quantizing the image. So we have this kind of pixelated effects. I'm not sure if cycles have pixelated or mosaic effect. It doesn't have. So this is normally, like I said, this is like a compositor kind of nodes. But we can kind of doing image processing inside cycle as well. And we can do a little bit more with the distortion because we can access the texture coordinates and stuff. Okay, so we have control over the scaling of the mosaic, but the offset is what's interesting. Okay, with the offset, you can, if you plug in the noise, you get this kind of like a blurring effect. Depending on the scale, the blurring can happen at different levels. So this is kind of like a low res, kind of very expressionistic kind of look. And remember that you can also use Blender on cycles procedural texture, such as the Musgrave, whatever, magic. Magic is pretty cool. If we use the magic texture, which is original, it looks like this. Sometimes magic texture is kind of like, wow, what is this? You know, will I ever use this? But apparently you can. You can simply plug this into the offset of this round vector and plug in this distorted Lenna image, and we get this fancy looking result. You can just play with parameters to your heart contents, but anyway, the scale also affects the result. So you can get this kind of fancy looking abstract image. If I make it full screen, see, this thing will render over time as well. This is really fast. I'm actually rendering while recording, so it's a bit slow, but if you have a powerful computer, this is like take a seconds. it will keep continue rendering until you get the final high resolution image. So this is if you are using magic texture. You can of course use others like Musgrave, whatever, sky, wave, Voronoi, let's try Voronoi. Generate it to the vector, intensity, or cells. Let's try intensity with a scale. So there's a bit of Voronoi happening. Reduce the scale. There you go. So you have this Voronoi kind of pattern. I kind of imagine that at some point, someone like a smart developer in Blender will generate like a Tensor Flow, kind of like a fancy terminology in computer graphics related to the what do you call it? Like a computer learning kind of stuff. Like basically, if you provide like a bunch of images, computer machine learning can learn from like a style, maybe like style of Van Gogh, and then they generate something like kind of like a data of all the images, and then kind of use that to regenerate this image, for example. So that with Tensor, unlike using Voronoi, you see the Voronoi have a pattern, but with like a Tensor Flow and then all this machine learning stuff, it will actually understand kind of outlining the image and stuff. It's actually, in a way, it's really fancy, but in another way, I think it's really just like a computer doing a tracing of image using the style that it's learning, like Van Gogh's, of course. But that's like maybe somewhere in the future, maybe in the near future. It's not impossible to do. Basically, once you get that data, you simply plug in whatever filter, you know, and it should be as simpler as this. Okay, enough with that talk. I will try now using something even something slightly more complex, but it's actually something that you already been using if you've been following my live noding or been playing with Sverchok. I will use Sverchok and then try to make like a simple kind of distortion for our image. But first of all, we need to increase the resolution of our plane, because we will be using color per vertex or vertex color of the mesh. So I will do like a little bit. I'll add a subdivision for this plane. Where is subdivide? Okay, subdivide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have now 49. We can go higher. 81 seems okay. We have 100 vertices. Okay, that seems pretty good. Now we have more resolution, 100 vertices, and okay, we are ready. We simply need to generate Sverchok node tree, and I will use the color vertex color new. Just assign this to our objects, the plane, and then we're gonna assign vertex color into each vertices. We're gonna try random color, random vector actually. We know we have 100 vertices, so I specify exactly 100 vertices there, and then plug that into the color. So we actually have vertex color data now inside this mesh. It's called svcall by default. So with that data, svcall, we can go back into cycles material and use the attribute. The attribute node is, I think, the only nodes currently in cycles that actually can source data per object and per component of the objects. Anyway, we can simply source the svcall and use that to distort our image. It's actually really that simple, but I'm only like doing the basic. You see what's going on now? The image being distorted. This is the original, see, all straight, and this is the one distorted. And believe it or not, if I can make changes here and make this randomize the seed, and then this thing will update in real time. Let's reduce this, like, see, 15 scaling, and we have this kind of expressionist, kind of like a modern art I call it, I know there's some like modern painting that looks like this, and I don't know, in computer graphic this is like just like a filter. It's very easy to do. Like I said, one day if we have like a way to use the Tensor Flow, or Google call it like a deep dream, or sometimes it's actually been evolving over the years. You have deep style these days. You can use app like Picasso, or like a what else, other app that's available on the iPhone. You simply have a style and you have the original image, and you can mix the two using that Tensor Flow and whatever deep dream stuff. Maybe I think one day we can have like Blender deep style node. This is actually, believe it or not, I think you can actually make this easy. Like it's available on with Python as a chainer, it's called, and this is it's available like as a filter in a few apps. So it requires like a powerful computer though in order to generate like a machine learning result really quickly. But anyway, like I said, this is kind of the same idea, even though we are only distorting the points now. One day we're gonna have this, I'm sure. So back to this guy. Random is cool, but random is also too much random. So instead of using random, we can use other fancy stuff in Sverchok, like the fractal, for example. I don't know, I think plane and fractal output is actually just a single color, but we can still use it as a vector. Increase this resolution, and let's randomize this thing. I think it's actually changing slightly. It's hard to see. I'll try a vector noise. This output is a vector, so it's probably more obvious. We have the usual Perlin noise, cell noise. Now cell noise, you can see the result. There is a limitation with this method. The color actually only range from 0 to 1, so that's the only thing. It's kind of clamped. It's being clamped, so you probably want to kind of do a little bit of math here from this color. I don't know, I think vector math. We have vector math here, and we can use add or cross product. I think we don't have multiplier here, surprisingly, but we can probably scale it. I'll get rid of that writing for now. This add kind of offset our thingy. We have multiplier here. Vector bump, mapping, normal, vector curve, transform script. There's a wavelength, color rand, math. Math have a multiplier. I think, okay, maybe we need to separate the value. Separate RGB. And then combine XYZ. So we kind of trick this to do the multiplier. And then use like input float. Is it? We have a number. I think they should call it a bit better here. I don't know. Attributes, no value. Okay, value. plug this into the offset. So now we are kind of increasing and decreasing the effects. Okay, we can see more distortion in this image based on this cell noise or Perlin, whatever. I think Voronoi, Crackle. So we have another modern art kind of being generated. If you want more resolution, we can. Sorry about the distortion of this image. If you like this model, it's being totally distorted now. We can center this guy, randomize the seed. And there's this fast noise. We can kind of mix the two, so we have kind of like a blurring effect as well. So vector, math. This guy can goes there, and this go there, and totally offset it. So now we have even kind of a little bit more believable. It behaves more or less like a filter, so it's not too fancy, but still it's kind of interesting that you're able to do this using Blender cycles, and everything is actually real time. So that's why I show you in the beginning we can have this kind of expressionistic, abstract looking image. You can still control the value that's coming from Sverchok, and you can increase the resolutions until at some point it's kind of looking just like the original image, except that it's slightly different now. It's being processed. It's almost like a compositing, like I said. Let's compare this with the original. Image editor, original Lenna. This is the one already being distorted. Maybe too high of resolution and they'll look too similar. So I kind of like the result with, you know, that's less. This is actually like less sampling of the original image. We cannot have a multiple scale, unfortunately. I'm not sure. Maybe we can randomize the scale as well. Oh yeah, apparently we can. It's really weird. So if we use like maybe Musgrave and use the factor into the scale, we have these effects. Very, very strange kind of effects. Detail, dimension, scale down. Now it's totally out of whack. The slide variations actually add more details into this. I actually quite like this. So let's look at it at one more time. So we have this multifractal kind of being the factor for the scaling. We can control the details, and maybe I kind of like it like this. And then dimensions, we can play around with the attributes, but we also offsetting the UV of this image, so we have that kind of quality. Everything is procedural and everything is interactive. It's pretty fast because if you are trying to do the whole thing in Sverchok, it might be like 10 times slower or 20 times slower, but unless Sverchok node is maybe made using Cython. I'm not sure about that bit, but anyway, I'm kind of this. So what we are doing here is kind of distorting using which is something that's dependent on this plane mesh resolutions, which is only 100 points. But that 100 points distorting the image slightly and it's becoming the vector for our round vector. So it's offsetting So this thing is really just distorting the image, so it's a bit more natural. And then, but this rig multifractal is kind of doing something as well, giving this kind of a hairy kind of result, which is really cool. If you've been following the Tensor Flow thing, actually probably that's something that can be a factor for this scaling. It simulates the effect of from original portrait. It's simulating like the blurring, and also like the way the color is being generated. I think that's the whole ideas there. I don't know, I'm not like 100% sure with that information, but it's gonna be cool in the future, near future. Like you can just simply wear glasses and then everything turns into abstract painting or impressionistic painting or Van Gogh really easily and in real time. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. It's a long talk, but hopefully this is interesting for you, something you want to try yourself. So you can distort the UV using Sverchok, and then you can also using Blender cycles to do something like image processing kind of design. So anyway, that's pretty much it for this live